Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Molly Smith, and welcome to Molly's Salon. This is our weekly program every Thursday night, where I interview innovative thinkers and creative firebrands. And these firebrands are a variety of artists and leaders discussing new ideas, how they're coping with the coronavirus, and glimmers of hope for the future. And tonight we're doing something a little bit different, as we always try to do on Molly's Salon. Tonight, instead of interviewing three people, I'm interviewing one person for 30 minutes. And his name is Peter DuBois. And I was really interested to interview him because, as you know, I was artistic director of Perseverance Theater in Juneau, Alaska for 19 years before I came to Arena Stage 23 years ago. And Peter was the next artistic director who took over for me. So I want to get into the past, present, future with him. Peter's in his 12th season as artistic director at the Huntington Theater, and he's seen a lot in his time, so we'll have an in-depth one-on-one conversation. As I said, he took over Perseverance Theater when I left in 1998 and spent 5 years there before going to the Public Theater for 5 years as associate producer and resident director, before going to the Huntington. So welcome, Peter. I'm very hopeful that some of our Alaskan friends may be tuning in tonight.
I'm hoping so too. I texted people, so we'll see.
Good.
It'd be wonderful.
It's great to see you, Peter.
It's really good to see you.
So I want to start in the way back. I want to start with 23 years ago, I left Perseverance for Arena Stage. But a few years before then, I met you, Peter, at Trinity Rep.
Yeah.
And I was first introduced then to Sarah Rule's work, and you were directing her work. Talk to us about your relationship with Sarah.
Yeah, I was directing a passion play at the time. And because all relationships seem to lead back to school, I met Sarah when she was an undergrad and I was in graduate school, and just fell in love with her work. I mean, I remember being at Trinity and getting yelled at by Ruth Sternberg, the production manager, because I had sold an ad to a puppet maker for, to get these puppets made for the show, but I didn't realize it wasn't my job to sell ads. So I had so much fun working on that with Sarah, who I've stayed really close with throughout the years. And I met Gina Gianfrido, who's been my longtime collaborator there. So that was a really fertile time. And then Gina came out to Alaska in my first year there.
I love it. I love it. And for those of you tuning in from Arena Stage, we then did Passion Play, all three parts at Arena Stage, and we also premiered the third part. So it was wonderful to have Sarah with us as well. She's an extraordinary artist.
Extraordinary artist, extraordinary human being, just, and what a vision those three plays present. I mean, really just gorgeous, and as recovering Catholics, it was something I loved tapping into.
Yeah, because it's, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's about passion plays from the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah.
Same thing as what Peter and I are talking about. So what's interesting to me is I will always remember Peter at Perseverance Theater when he came into audition as the new artistic director. And there were questions on the application for Peter, because you have to be a jack of all trades if you're going to be in Alaska at Perseverance Theater. And I remember one was, can you fix a vacuum cleaner? Do you remember that question?
Yes.
How many artistic directors get that kind of thing?
That was fantastic. But do you remember my answer? My time is too valuable. I'd send it out to be fixed. I was riding back from Brooklyn at that time, so I didn't.
You didn't know. You didn't know.
I didn't, but I remember that question so well.
And I also remember standing in one of the theaters, and you were mapping out the future for Perseverance Theater, and I was standing listening. I had pulled myself away from being any of the people who made selections for artistic director, because I don't think that's the job of the outgoing person. But I remember at one point you looked at me and I thought, he's got this. It was a kind of attitude like, get out of here, put an egg in your shoe and beat it. And I thought, he's the one. He's got it.
I remember getting there just feeling like, I know what I can do with this, you know? And so it was this amazing first foray into leadership. I mean, it was really a theater leadership. And so I've to my friends at Arena, I've been standing on Molly's shoulders for 22 years now. So I was really grateful to be your following act, because you were a tough act to follow. I remember that being sort of drilled in my head. Oh, everyone kept texting me statistics, Molly, of how people who follow founders always fail.
Yeah.
These were the statistics people were sending me. And so, but you were so great. And I would go hide out in the costume shop, which was behind the offices. And when I say shop, I mean more like the size of an apartment bathroom. I mean, it's a small space, but I remember calling you from there, because that's where you could actually make private calls and getting advice time after time. So,
well, it's really hard for people to take over for founding artistic directors. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Because all the people who've come together to start the theater, they're completely connected to that person. And Peter, you just took the job on and made it your own. You did a ton of touring while you were there.
Yeah.
Talk about a couple of your favorite tours, because I think people don't get the idea of the scale of Alaska.
Right.
And how a tour in Alaska is not like a tour anyplace else in the country.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I got excited when I was up there and got connected with just the people in Barrow, Alaska, and I just developed a real connection and fondness for individuals in the community in Barrow, and I realized that there was kind of this at the time, and it's still going on, this sort of fissure between what many of the leaders in Barrow wanted to be able to do, which was to have sovereignty over their own land and drill for oil, and what environmentalists were coming in and saying, we need to protect this land. And a lot of the elders in the community felt the same way. And so it was just a very interesting time, because it sort of felt like if two progressive causes suddenly came into collision. And then I was very interested in adapting Moby Dick. And so I thought, oh, what a great lens to look at this contemporary experience through, and so we created an adaptation of Moby Dick that I was lucky enough to go up to Barrow and be a part of the whale hunt, the fall whale hunt, which was really incredible. And I remember we actually left the set behind, because we toured the Moby Dick production around the state, and we left the set there. And we got pictures the next season, because the whaling captains used the set for the whaling camp in the spring.
Wow.
And so it was really great, because we had been doing the interviews in the fall whaling season, and that was so great. And it took a week up there, and that's why I fell in love with Barrow, because I would hang out in what's called the search and rescue, which is sort of a really tight kind of Quonset hut tin sort of experience. And the older whaling captains would just play solitaire. That's what I loved. They were at a card table where you would play poker, but everyone was playing solitaire. And I remember at one moment, someone handing me a set of cards and saying, "You've been watching long enough, you know, you should be playing." And so I sat there and I started playing solitaire, and it took a week to get interviews with the whaling captains there. But and my trip was scheduled for a week. It was supported by the Ford Foundation. And I had to extend the trip for 4 more days because it took a week to really get people to want to open up and share their stories. And then once they did, Molly, it was just like, I was just sold on the community in Barrow and the seriousness of these tensions that sometimes from the perspective of the lower 48, we can forget, you know.
Right, right. And Peter, I want you to continue talking about that, but I'm going to go over because I have a lighting issue. I'm going to have to kind of close
Oh my gosh.
window.
Oh, but it's so good, Molly.
It looks a little bright to me. It looks just a little bit bright to me.
Well, you know,
Suzanne is running through, but
we're
she's
not at solstice yet, but we're close. So
yep. Okay, there. Now it's good. But you can see back here, Suzanne, you might want to turn yours off for a sec because we can hear it. You can see back here on our back wall.
I see
that's a mask, and it's a spirit mask from Tooksuk Bay. And when I was at Perseverance Theater, we did a production that is very near and dear to my heart called Yupik Antigone.
Yeah.
And as Peter knows, it was a retelling of the Antigone story from the point of view of the Yupik Eskimos. And it was a production that eventually toured around the world because it combined 2 ancient cultures, the Yupik culture and the Greek culture. And it was all done in the Yupik language with Yupik dancing, Yupik mass. I mean, it was pretty extraordinary. And for people to go to Alaska, I mean, someplace like Barrow or Tooksuk Bay feels like you're on the edge of the world.
Yeah.
You're right there on the Bering Sea. And talk a little bit about visually what it is in Barrow. Were you there in winter or were you there in the fall?
So
Winter.
I went several times, and I was there first in the fall and experienced just the shorter days, but I also had the amazing experience of being able to go out on the water and be part of a boat that was towing in one of the whales, and during the whale hunt. And I guess I'll just say as a sidebar, this is subsistence hunting. Everything is eaten or used and from the whale. And what we would do visually, so just what blew my mind was 2 forklifts would come and they would, bring the whale to a landing strip. And I just remember people up all night and the drumming and, the whole community coming together to give honor to the sacrifice of this whale and also to, butcher it for the community. It was shared among the community and the people who took part in this, equally. And, if whale's not your thing, you could barter with someone. I mean, it was quite a life-changing experience. But then I went back in February, and that was mind-blowing visually, because the sun would come up and it would look like a little moon, like at the bottom of your pinky, and that was it. It was like this orange reddish line, and then it was gone, and that was the sunlight for the day. And there was something just does something to your consciousness, changes how you think. People come inside, and then in the summer when it's so beautiful and you have that 24-hour sun, and people have stitched together the sealskins, and it's basically like a blanket toss from when I was a little kid, but with the sealskins, and there's just like that were hunted in the winter, and it's just there was so much joy, and visually, as you say, it was like seeing white foxes blending with the snow and suddenly turning and looking at you, and you just see the glint of their eyes. It was really amazing. You know, I got to go out on a search and rescue, and there was a guy that was reported missing by his nephew, and he wound up just, you know, he was 97 years old. He was ice fishing, and he wanted to be left alone. And he was like, tell my nephew to leave me alone, you know, but, you know, it was just this really remarkable recalibration for me of human experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What did you learn at Perseverance Theater that you took with you when you went to the public theater? What was, was there a lesson you learned or a couple lessons?
Yeah, there was a lot that I learned. And it's funny, I was just starting to get to know George Wolfe, who was my mentor at the public for 3 years. And I said to George, oh, I'm moving to Alaska, and he was like, you know, I remember saying, I want to try to get you up there. And I kept telling him about the rainfall, and he's like, you're not doing a very good job. But the bottom line was, if the job of Perseverance hadn't come up, I was like pounding down the doors of the Publix. I loved that theater so much to this day. And I love what it represents. And so I said to George at the time, I want to bring your vision up to Alaska, and I want to explore Alaska culturally. And I want my, you know, I remember at the time he famously said, you know, I want to see my theater look like the subway platform at Astor Place where it is. And I remember carrying all those exciting ideas with me to Perseverance. And then, you know, I went back to the public, and I worked there first as associate producer, then as resident director, half of it under George, half of it under Oscar. I mean, it was a really thrilling period of time. And Oscar had also supported my candidacy for Perseverance. So there was just this way in which I still think of the connection between Perseverance Theater and the public as, you know, and what in the vision, Molly, that you had created about Alaskans, by Alaskans, for Alaskans. That's a very public theater kind of vision. And so it felt really natural to be like, oh man, no, I'm leaving New York and I'm going to Alaska. Because this job seems too good. So it's a long story, but.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Peter. I'm going to kind of segue into the Huntington, because we've just got about 10 minutes left. Because I think that that's where you are now, and this is the moment. And I want to know, how is the Huntington Theater coping in this troubled time, and what is happening in Boston, both because of the pandemic and because of the marches and protests after the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah. It has been 3 months, you know, that I won't forget all the details of, you know, and we as a company, I think, are very strong. We mobilized right away when the pandemic happened. We did, I'm sure what you did, Molly, lots of Zoom calls with our department heads, with all staff, and we've shrunk. We, like most of our colleagues, like you, we are down to about 30% of our size before COVID began. We've been very blessed with an incredible board that immediately sent out 2 different challenges, which raised a significant amount of money, which helped support salaries, which is really great. And, then, as we're really inside these personnel changes inside the pandemic, the murder of George Floyd happened, and and I don't know about you, but I feel like as a white theater leader, my job is to listen and to amplify. I've got 2 gigs, to really listen to the world right now and to our culture and to the cri de coeur that I believe so much in, that is happening in the country. And so I'm in that listening and processing mode, and where we are now is really focused on trying to really make good with our staff members and artists of color, but also to really dig deep in soul search and, just listen to people. And really when a voice speaks, Nicole Salter's piece that was on TCG, her keynote piece, was stunningly beautiful. And I just think the more we can do to amplify those voices, the better the world's going to be. But I feel, Molly, we're at a tipping point, and we could talk about this forever, but the film footage was single shot that was very explicit and very clear, and it lasted for 8 minutes. And I think while it doesn't surprise many people, it shocks many people to see that, the clarity and the focus of that, and to see intent and to see all of these things. And so right now I feel like I'm just feeling the emotions of that and processing it in my own mind, and really trying to figure out how to set my own house straight, because I really then want to make sure I'm using my vote and my own power as a theater leader to both get my own house straight, but also to change the dynamic out there.
Well, we're at a moment, as you said. It's not just a tipping point. It is a tipping point, but it is a disruptive time. Whether it started with the virus, where our whole lives were disrupted. We were all put into our homes to do online work in terms of the theater. And people were afraid about whether or not they were going to live or die. As a matter of fact, we've just made a film called May 22nd, 2020, which premieres on Saturday, which is 10 artists with 10 monologues coming from 10 interviewees. And we've just shot the film on Sunday. We finished the rough cut. We completed the film, and boom, it's going to be out to the public, because I want people to remember that moment in time. And it was May 22nd, 2020, which is 3 days before the murder of George Floyd.
That's right.
When the country changed yet again. And now we're in this extraordinary moment where our BIPOC voices are speaking very, very loudly about what they want, what they need, what they feel. And we have an opportunity for transformation and transformation in the theater. And I know the way you work, Peter, I know the way I work, Arena Works, will be part of that, because it's an ocean of change that is coming. And we all need to be swimming in it, or we'll be flopping on shore.
That's right.
Now, all of this has changed. There's no mistake that it's all coming together in this moment. And it's like, okay, let's go. Let's uncover structures that are problematic. Let's uncover different ways of working with the community. Both you and I are really community people in many ways. We work with communities where it's part of the reason that we get energy, right? And so it's exciting to me as well. I want to turn to just.
I just want to say that
ahead.
film sounds so exciting, Molly, because it sounds like you shot it on a baseline day, where it's like we were in one moment, and that's the baseline, and then suddenly we were in another moment as a country.
Exactly right.
For my Black friends, they've been in that moment for years, but we you know, the larger country got inside a different zeitgeist, and you shot that movie right before, so I can't wait actually to see that. Awesome.
Well, it'll be out on Saturday, and so just tag into Arena Stage, our website. It's only 58 minutes long. Some beautiful acting in it. Very simply shot, Peter.
So
I mean,
great.
it's single shots. Everything shot outside. I didn't want an instant of it to be shot in front of a computer.
Yeah.
I just thought, no, this is about life.
It's not a Zoom movie.
It's not a Zoom movie.
We've seen enough of those.
That's exactly right. So I'm really curious about, talk to us about redefining your art in this time. How do you redefine what you're doing? I mean, we were all at home alone, right? Not in our theaters. What kind of projects are really percolating in your brain right now?
Multiple kinds, I would say. You know, in the short term, I'm thinking a lot about podcasts. I think Zoom is a great medium for workshops and developing work. I haven't necessarily felt the visceral connection as an artist to the work I see over Zoom, because I watch a lot of it. So I'm really interested in this idea of giving audiences oral stimulation that, you know, provides artists, playwrights with, you know, the opportunity to then send the audience off on their own trip. So I'm doing a lot of that in terms of the Boston audience and how to keep people engaged right now. Like that auditory, to me, people have to take care of their own visuals, and a Zoom screen to me is a visual that's just so, you know, we're inundated. I think I'm really interested in socially distanced spectacle right now. What are the things that we could create in the parking lots of Walmarts or in stadiums, in parks, that speak to our moment? And then I'm thinking really hard about when we can get back into our theaters. You know, Molly, I miss the audience, like big time.
Like crazy, yeah.
Crazy. And so that for me is what I have my eye on, and what are the things we're gonna wanna say. And so I don't have answers to those questions, because I feel like just in the soup of it right now, but I feel like committed, ready to come out fighting, ready to come out strong, you know, and I hope you're feeling the same way and Arena's feeling the same way.
Totally, totally. It's so beautiful to talk to you, Peter. I can't believe it. It's already 7:30.
I know, it flies by. It's
It
7:30.
it flew by, but I know you're a pioneer, just like I'm a pioneer. So
you are.
we're going to be figuring this out. So it's so great to have you on. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Molly.
coming.
It's been an honor to be with you and with your audience.
We'll see you soon.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
My guests next week are Wendy Goldberg, Artistic Director of National Playwrights Conference at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, Robert Rabin, President and founder of the Rabin Group, and Andy Shalal, founder and CEO of Busboys and Poets. Now, tonight's gift of art is from Cornelius Smith, who will perform as Frederick Douglass in American Prophet, a future production at Arena Stage, directed by our own Charles Randolph Wright. The lyrics from the song come from Frederick Douglass's speeches, and it's especially true for today. So let's go to Cornelius.
It is not light that we need, no. It is not light that we need, but fire. It is not the gentle shower that we need, but thunder. We need the storm. We need the whirlwind, and for the nation's sake, we need the earthquake. We need the fire. We need the fire. We need the fire. We need the fire.